Hello everyone, straight from Brazil to the world, you are on the Boosted Man channel. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos.
Have you ever noticed how some women seem to run toward what destroys them and away from what could actually heal them? You offer stability, presence, understanding. Yet she chooses the man who disappears, who ignores her, who makes her doubt herself. And there you are, confused, wondering, what's wrong with me? Nothing. What's happening isn't logical, it's emotional. There's a silent pattern at work, rooted in old emotional memories, an unconscious addiction to chaos that her body still calls love. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's exactly what happens here. What she calls chemistry is really the echo of unhealed wounds. When she meets an emotionally present man, he becomes the mirror that reflects what she's not yet ready to face. That's why she runs. It's not about how good, kind, or attentive you are. It's about how much peace she can actually handle. For a woman who grew up loving through emotional highs and lows, peace feels threatening. A stable man doesn't trigger adrenaline. And for someone who's learned to mistake tension for love, that feels like disinterest. You feel it deeply. The more present you are, the less desired you become. But it's not your fault. She's still attached to the chaos she confuses with passion. In this video, you'll understand why so many women are drawn to emotionally unavailable men, why a balanced man triggers not desire but fear, and how the awakened man transcends this cycle without losing himself trying to save someone else. Because the truth is simple, but painful. You can't heal a woman who mistakes love for turbulence, but you can learn not to repeat the same pattern within yourself. The invisible addiction to emotional instability. Most women who chase emotionally distant men aren't looking for love. They're chasing what their bodies have learned to call life. It's a biochemical addiction. Every time the cold, distant man appears, disappears, and reappears, her brain floods with dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline. Chaos becomes her drug. From an early age, she learned that love must be earned. In many homes, affection was conditional. If I behave, I'm loved. If I don't, I'm ignored. That pattern creates an emotional addiction. Love becomes synonymous with effort. Years later, she unconsciously repeats the same pattern. The unpredictable man awakens the old family drama. It's not him she truly wants. It's the emotional sensation he triggers. His silence feels familiar. His absence recreates the same anxiety she felt when love disappeared in childhood. And when he comes back, the emotional high returns. Her brain confuses that relief with passion. She calls it chemistry, but it's emotional dependency disguised as destiny. The stable man, however, offers what she never learned to manage: calm. And calm feels intolerable to someone who equates love with pain. She feels bored, disconnected. Not because he lacks excitement, but because her nervous system doesn't recognize peace as safety. When he treats her with respect, she feels uneasy. When he's consistent, she loses interest. Her body is wired to confuse predictability with boredom and chaos with love. That's the paradox. She wants peace, but only feels alive in tension. She wants love, but chases what makes her bleed. And the man who tries to heal her ends up getting hurt. He believes he can show her that love doesn't need drama, but for her, chaos is still the only way to feel alive. The awakened man realizes her disinterest isn't personal, it's biological and emotional. She's not running from him. She's running from her own vulnerability. Until her body learns to recognize love as safety instead of tension, she'll stay addicted to emotional adrenaline. And the conscious man understands. True love isn't a roller coaster. It's stable yet deep. When he remains centered, her addiction starts to lose its grip, because chaos dies when it stops being fed. In that moment, he understands something powerful. He wasn't rejected for lacking value. He was offering something she didn't yet know how to receive: the masculine reflection of female neediness. Every woman chasing the wrong man is, without realizing it, projecting her own wound. She's chasing validation, not love. And the emotionally unavailable man becomes the perfect mirror for that emptiness. He represents the challenge that reactivates her need to prove her worth. The one who rejects her triggers more desire than the one who accepts her. Because her ego isn't seeking connection, it's seeking confirmation. But when she meets a man who's emotionally available, kind, and consistent, her body doesn't react. There's no resistance, no tension, no victory. Her mind says, "He's right for me." But her subconscious whispers, "He's boring." That's the tragedy of the emotionally mature man. He offers everything she says she wants: stability, attention, presence, but her subconscious still equates desire with distance. So when he gets close, she pulls away. Not because she doesn't want him, but because he threatens to dismantle the internal theater that keeps her identity intact. Chaos protects her. Love exposes her. You can feel it. She was interested, then suddenly turns cold. She starts to test you, to provoke, to withdraw. It's her mind unconsciously recreating the emotional game that makes her feel alive. Pursuit, loss, and reconnection. When the man doesn't understand this invisible cycle, he compensates. He insists, explains, adjusts himself, tries harder. But that effort only pushes her further away, because the moment he tries to prove his worth, he becomes too available. And to her subconscious, availability means no challenge and no spark. The awakened man learns that he doesn't need to compete with her illusion. Healthy love doesn't have to be earned to be felt. He realizes that feminine validation only has power while he's still dependent on it. Here's the mirror most men miss. When you try to prove your worth to an emotionally immature woman, it's not love. It's your own wounded ego seeking approval. You're not trying to love her. You're trying to heal the pain of not being chosen before. She mirrors your need just as you mirror hers. Two unconscious hearts trying to find in each other what they must awaken within themselves. The conscious man stops reacting. He doesn't turn cold. He becomes aware. He understands that attraction without awareness is just chemistry between wounds. Real power lies in being the man who chooses, not the one who begs to be chosen. And when he reaches that point, his energy shifts. He no longer reacts. He observes. He realizes that many feminine behaviors aren't manipulation. They're unconscious defense. That awareness doesn't weaken him. It frees him. He stops being a mirror for her pain and becomes a boundary for her awakening. She may still run after the man who rejects her, but his value is no longer defined by it. And here's the twist. When he detaches, she begins to feel something entirely new. Stability with intensity. It's unfamiliar, unsettling, and magnetic. For the first time, love doesn't hurt. And that's what truly terrifies her. The paradox of the woman who runs from the love that heals deep down. She isn't afraid of being rejected. She's afraid of being seen. Because when a grounded man looks at her, he doesn't fall for the mask. He sees through it. And that's unbearable for someone who spent a lifetime hiding behind strength, independence, or seduction. The stable man is dangerous, not because he hurts, but because he disarms. He doesn't chase. He observes. And when he looks at her without trying to conquer her, she feels something she's avoided for years. Vulnerability. For a woman who's been wounded, vulnerability is far more terrifying than rejection. The cold man she understands, the loving man she fears, because the first keeps her in control, the second demands surrender. She's learned to survive through drama. Drama gives her identity. She knows who she is when she's fighting, waiting, or hurting. But in the presence of a consistent man, she loses that reference point. He doesn't awaken the warrior. He awakens the woman. And that part of her has long been silenced. So she runs. Not because she doesn't want him, but because he makes her feel exposed. His love threatens to dissolve the armor she needed to survive. Calm feels suspicious. Kindness feels manipulative. Presence feels unsafe. She was trained to distrust peace, and the subconscious prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar healing. That's why she keeps returning to tension and calls it chemistry. But it's not instinct. It's the body asking for another hit of the same emotional drug. The awakened man sees this clearly. He feels the urge to save her but resists. Because love is not a rescue mission. It's a field of awareness. Healing only begins when she recognizes her own cage. You may see her potential and want to help her awaken. But emotional maturity means understanding that love doesn't fix. It respects timing. The conscious man steps back, not out of coldness, but wisdom. He doesn't compete with her trauma or try to convince her. He knows chaos eventually exhausts itself, and when that exhaustion comes, she'll remember the man who didn't try to control her, only understood her. Because conscious love doesn't demand, it simply is. And one day, when she finally frees herself from the confusion she once called love, she'll seek that man, the one who stayed whole. That's the paradox. She runs from the love that could heal her, yet it's that very love she'll one day recognize as real. And when that moment comes, the awakened man won't need to prove anything, because he never lost himself trying to be accepted. In the end, everything comes down to awareness. She chases the wrong men not by choice but by unconscious loyalty to her past. And you, trying to save her, get trapped in the same pattern, trying to prove love through pain. But once you awaken, everything changes. You stop interpreting her distance as rejection and start seeing it as emotional incompatibility. You understand it's not your mission to prove your worth to someone still struggling to see their own. And then something profound happens. Your energy shifts. You no longer react to absence. You understand it. You no longer beg for reciprocity. You see that silence is an answer. What once felt like pain now becomes discernment. You realize you can't force awareness in someone who's not ready to see. And in that realization, you finally see yourself. Conscious love is born from integrity, not need. It's not about being chosen. It's about remaining whole. And that quiet strength changes everything, not because it manipulates, but because it vibrates at a higher frequency. The women who once ignored you begin to notice, not because you became someone else, but because you finally became complete. The love that heals doesn't try to fix others. It awakens the best in the one who gives it. And when you live in that state, you no longer chase, you attract. Not through games, but through energy, presence, and purpose. So when she runs back to the wrong man again, you won't feel anger, you'll feel clarity. And that clarity is your power. You'll see that what she calls love is just a broken mirror. And your role was never to repair it, but to allow her reflection to one day align with your light. When that day comes, the cycle ends. You stop being the man who tries to save, and become the man who inspires transformation simply by existing.